Let's move into the basics for this Wednesday Mindful Pilates class. Let's start on the floor. Lying down, we will start with the basics after I let Izzy in. Come on in. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, lying down, constructive rest. Why do we come into constructive rest? Come into constructive rest in part to relax the psoas open. When you bend your knees towards the sky, it gives your psoas a chance to lay back towards earth without being pulled or strained in any way. So bring your hands onto your belly. Nod your tailbone towards earth. Feel an over accentuation of your lumbar curve. Nod tailbone towards sky. Flatten the lumbar curve. And nod your pelvis. Tailbone towards earth, tailbone towards sky. Feel how your spine moves inside your body underneath your hands. Nodding the pelvis. Notice if there's any stiffness in your low back. There's any stiffness around the sides of the spine. There's any stiffness in the buttocks as you activate tailbone towards sky. And then come into your neutral lumbar curve and bring your arms open, elbows out into a T, fingers towards the sky, palms towards the foot of the mat. And shrug your shoulders away from earth and rest the head of your arm bone back down towards earth. And shrug the shoulder away from earth and rest it back down. One more time, shrug it away, rest it back down. Now press out the length of your humerus bones, the upper arm bones, and press that arm bone back. Keeping your gaze perpendicular to the sky, press the arms back. Make sure the shoulder is also pressing back. And take a few three-dimensional breaths as you press the arms back, the humerus bones down into the floor. Feel for muscles working and stretching. Feel for the mid-back working. We're waking up the mid-back. Nod your head no. We don't want to overactivate the upper trap. We're trying to turn on the mid and lower trap. Pressing the arms back. Three-dimensional breath. Now release the arms. Let your hands rest, palms up, thumbs out, long beside your body. Neutral lumbar curve. And exhale, float one shin up to tabletop. Float that foot back down light as a feather. Broaden your shoulders as you float the next leg up and float it down light as a feather. Really try to land lightly as you continue. Exhaling up and inhaling down. Neutral spine. Broad across the shoulders. Now land the foot a little more lightly. So just put 50% of the foot's weight down as you lift the other side. Shoulders are broad. They do not have to lift to help you do the work. In fact, you're slightly grounding them. And feel the muscles in your abdomen that turn on. Feel the muscles that run from your spine to your inner thigh. From your pelvis to your inner thigh. Now float one leg up to tabletop and the other up to join. Bring your thumbs to your low ribs, fingers to your hip pointers. This is your Pilates Square. Keep your neutral lumbar curve as you toe dip one foot towards the floor and float back up. Toe dip the next and float back up. Keep your shins parallel to each other. If this is hard on your back because you have a interesting spine, maybe a flat low back or scoliosis, Then you may want to lift your sacrum up on a folded blanket or a supportive block, or this all may feel better on the Gurdie ball. Bring your feet back up, heels together, open your knees as wide as your shoulders, and toe dip one leg again. Come back up, inhale down, exhale up, shoulders are resting broad, and your square is staying square. You're not tilting the tailbone towards earth as you lower a foot. You're keeping the sacrum pretty steady and letting the femur bone move independently inside the pelvis. Now come back up, flex your feet, shins parallel, and bring your hands onto your femur bones. Press the hands into your femur bones and pull your knees towards your chest. It's an isometric. Don't do it at 110% of effort. For a moment, do it at 110% of effort and feel how you squinch up your body and you lose space in the joints. Now lengthen your spine, broaden your shoulders, and press at about 70% of effort. Think of maintaining your Pilates Square, breathing into the 3 dimensions of your torso, broad across the shoulder girdle. And let yourself be here a little while. Sometimes it's not the kind of over-efforting rate that is important. In fact, that's often not good for us. It's this sustaining effort. Broad across your shoulders, 3-dimensional breath. And draw the knees in towards your chest. Circle them wide apart and back together again. Now we invite the hips to open. We've done some waking up of the abdominal core. Take your knees the other way. This has been pre-Pilates work. Now, float one foot back to the floor, heel aligned with sit bone. Other foot back to the floor. Hands rest on your belly and inhale into the hands. Inhale deep down, low in the pelvis between your 2 hip pointers. Try to raise the low belly with your breath. Invite the breath deep into the bowl of the pelvis. If we don't have 3-dimensional breath mastered, it is hard to evenly strengthen the core. Now breathe into the low back. Imagine the back can release back, even with the lumbar curve. Release towards the floor. Even as the hands are filled by the breath at the belly. Now let your hands work their way around to your side waists and fill the hands, both sides. Place your hands around your low ribs. Fill the low ribs with breath. Visualize the diaphragm descending towards the pelvic floor on the inhale, ascending up under the lungs on the exhale. Movement of the diaphragm fundamental to this core work. Now, place your hands on, thumbs on your low ribs, fingers on your hip pointers. Maintaining your square, take a deep 3-dimensional inhale. Exhale through your straw, lift the pelvic floor, feel for the diaphragm lifting and the transverse abdominis hugging 3-dimensionally around the spine. Soften and inhale. Notice if your shoulders want to curl up, don't let them rest back. As you exhale, keep your neutral lumbar curve. Lift the pelvic floor. Feel the diaphragm lift as you exhale. Hug in the transverse abdominis. Feel for it 3-dimensionally all the way around the torso. Like a corset underneath your rectus abdominis, underneath your obliques. Make sure You're not curling up at the chest or the shoulders. Isolate this core, which is fascially interconnected from the diaphragm through the transverse abdominis to the pelvic floor. Relax the shoulders. Relax the face. Now maintain this awareness as you exhale again and lift one leg to tabletop. Inhale three-dimensionally, keeping the spine in its neutral curve as you lower the foot. Shoulders are broad. Exhale, lift the next foot. Inhale, foot back to the floor. Shoulders broad, gaze perpendicular to the floor. Don't underestimate the importance of this work. Now exhale one leg to tabletop. Pause, take an inhale. Exhale the next leg up. Bring your heels together, open your knees. Inhale, float one leg down, keep your Pilates Square. Exhale through your straw, lift the heel to the heel. Inhale the next foot down. Shoulders are broad. Exhale, heel to heel. Keep going. Keep feeling for the transverse abdominis, the pelvic floor, the diaphragm lifting. Feel for a three-dimensional breath on the inhale. Shoulders tacking gently back. Neutral lumbar curve. Neutral cervical curve. Now bring your shins parallel, flex your feet, place your hands on the femurs. Press the hands into the femurs. Pull the knees towards the chest. 70% of effort. Broad shoulders, long neck. Three-dimensional inhale, exhale through the straw, lift the pelvic floor, feel for the transverse abdominis. So you'll feel that you've engaged other core muscles on top of the transverse abdominis, but try to still find it inside. Long neck. Now draw the knees into the chest. Circle them wide apart and back together again. Waking up the internal core for the external core work that we will do so that it is on board with every core exercise. Circle the other way. Knees together, circle around the perimeter of your sacrum. Say good morning to this landmark in our body. Feel your SI joints on each side. Noticing if one is tender or not, and remembering you can squeeze a block between your knees if you need to recenter your SI joints. So let's do that now. Reach for a yoga block and place it longwise between your knees. Press the knees into the block. Feel your inner thighs activate. With your hands, palpate your inner thighs. Get to know which muscles are working. Then bring your hands to the outer thighs and gently tap your buttocks out the outer edge of your leg, and imagine that the banks of your river can hug into the block as well. So you're not just hugging from the inner thigh, you're hugging from the outer thigh. Let your arms open in a T on the floor, palms up. Hug the block. And then release the block. And hug one knee into your chest. Lengthen the other leg out on the floor. Wrap your hands around the back of the hamstring and press the hamstrings into your hands. Keep your elbows bent. Keep the knee as close to the chest as is comfortable. Press the leg away. Another isometric. Hold the leg in with your hands. Press the leg into your hands. Now, you could do this at 100% of effort, and you might feel muscles stiffen and torque. Try to keep some space inside the body. Don't torque the abdomen. And as you press the leg into the hands, take a three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through your straw. Find the pelvic floor. Feel for the diaphragm. Feel for the transverse abdominis. Now let the arms lengthen out so the elbows are straight. And again, press the hamstrings into the hands. Press and pull. Again, take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through your straw. Find the banks of your river, lift the pelvic floor. Feel for the diaphragm lifting the transverse abdominis. And hug the knee into your chest and release. Bring the other leg into the chest and lengthen the opposite leg on the floor. Bring your hands behind your knee and press the leg into your hands. Pull the leg towards your chest and have it pretty close. Elbows are bent. Press and pull. We're putting pressure on the two sides of the pelvis to release the sacrum and the ilium bones. But we want to stay aware of the core that this all interconnects into. So we keep a pretty steady pelvis, pretty steady shoulders, and we take a deep three-dimensional inhale. We exhale through the straw. Find the lift of the pelvic floor. Feel for the transverse abdominis, the lift of the diaphragm. Straighten the arms. Keep pressing the leg into the hands. Another three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through your straw. Find the lift to the pelvic floor, the breathing diaphragm, the hug of the transverse abdominis. And hug the knee into your chest. And release the foot to the floor. And step both feet in. Reach for the block. Step one foot to table, the next foot to table. Place the block between your knees and press into the block again. So if you get pain in your hips, a lot of times people blame, they call it sciatica. But sometimes it isn't that. Sometimes it's your SI joints getting misaligned, and then you have pain in your hips. So we do this to help realign the sacrum between the ilium bones. As you're pressing the knees into the block, your femur bones are pressing out into the pelvic bones, kind of spreading them apart so that the sacrum can settle back. Now release the pressure on the block. Draw the knees into the chest, circle wide, and back together again. The added benefit of hugging the block like that is that we feel where our midline is in the powerhouse between the inner thighs. Now hug your right leg into your chest. Lengthen the left leg out at a 45-degree angle. Hug in the banks of your river so you don't torque the pelvis. Nod nose towards mouth and almost lift from the hairline. And switch legs. Can you keep a steady pelvis? Use the banks of your river. Use your three-dimensional breath. Use your lift of your pelvic floor. Some of you may want to float the head up and look towards the knees. This is contraindicated if you have osteoporosis because it puts pressure on the upper vertebrae in the thoracic spine, in the cervical spine. If you don't have osteoporosis, the lift can actually be healthy. Try to continue to lengthen it out through your crown. Float your feet. Stretch from big toe ball mount to pinky toe ball mount. Stay with awareness of that inner core. Smooth and fluid movements as you flex the feet and press out through the heel, stretching the back fascial lines. Remember, in Pilates, the whole body is involved in each movement. It may be a grounding that one body part is doing. It may be a reaching. It may be a hugging. And hug both knees into the chest. Lift the hands and feet towards the sky. Pointing the toes, come into your Pilates V and zip up the inner thighs as you take wrists away from ankles. Feel for your Pilates Square. Maintain it. Circle the arms and hug the knees in. When you hug in, you'll flatten the lumbar curve into the floor. But when you extend ankles away from wrists, you want to make sure you're not over accentuating your lumbar curve. The low ribs are in good relation with the hip pointers. Circle the arms and hug the knees in. Extend out on your inhale. Exhale in. Use the filling of the inhale to help support the core and the exhale to activate your transverse abdominis. Inhaling and exhaling. Inner thighs hug together. You know your midline. Banks of the river hug in towards that midline. And this can work in the arms as well as the legs. One more. Inhale out, exhale in. Bring the right leg overhead, left leg long, and pulse, pulse, and switch. Pulse, pulse, float the feet. Pulse, 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 flex the feet. Pulse, 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 pulse. Remember, we're just looking for an inch of movement. And we're stable in the pelvis because we became aware of how to do that with the block. And we've created awareness in the whole intra-abdominal cavity. Now point the feet and bend the front knee as it comes in and press the hands into the front of the femur bone at the knee. Press and pulse, pulse, and pulse, pulse. So it's a little press with your hands and pull with the knee. And feel how your abdominal core is again going to turn on. Can you keep that internal core stabilizing you as you create this movement? So we've added a little pressure, but we are stabilizing and being careful with the spine by having activated the inner core. Good. And come back to your tabletop. Let your arms rest, palms up. Take a deep three-dimensional inhale. And as you exhale, lengthen the spine. Feel into the rectangle of your torso from shoulders to hips and rest the shoulders back. Toe dip, one foot towards the floor. Exhale it back up. Keep your Pilates Square. Inhale, toe dip. Exhale, up. Float your feet, toe dip, and up. Maintain the banks of your river. You may be lifting your pelvic floor. The shoulders are resting back. You can nod your head no. The neck is relaxed. The jaw is relaxed. Flex the feet. Heel toe dips and heel toe dips. You can stay with single leg toe dips or toe dip both legs. The shoulders stay back. The Pilates Square is strong. If you feel like your Pilates Square is opening into a rectangle, don't go as far. Now you can stay with this, toe dipping your heels, or you can lift your feet towards the sky, zip up the inner thighs, flex the feet, lower the heels, point the toes, lift the feet. Flex and lower, point and lift. Now here, hugging in towards the bone all around the legs and hugging the banks of your river in will really help you. Support this leg's inner connection into the hips. Hug your hips towards midline. Stabilize the pelvis. Keep your neutral spine. One more. And then bring your hands behind your head and draw your right knee in as you lift your left elbow. Now again, lengthen the spine through the crown. Now notice, have you brought your hips askew? Come back to center, look up towards the sky, even as you're lifting the left elbow slightly. Lengthen crown to pelvic floor. And then just lift the elbow skyward, lifting that shoulder blade. Keep the length of the spine. Twist around the center channel and switch. And switch. You'll get the obliques. You don't have to flop across, elbow towards knee. Reach the elbow skyward. Really lift the back body. That's going to make the obliques work in the front body. The right rib reaches towards the left hip pointer as you reach the right elbow skyward. Right elbow, right rib. Left elbow, left rib. They reach across to the other side, across the abdomen. That doesn't mean the elbow has to do it too. Reach the elbow skyward. Keep a long and spacious spine. Rest the head back and say good morning to your obliques. And as you do this work, see, can you inhale into your torso three-dimensionally? And can you exhale, feeling for the transverse abdominis, the corset supporting the spine, even as the obliques help twist. Feel for it. And come back to center. And float one foot lightly to the floor, and then the other. Take your feet as wide as the mat. Open your arms in a T or overhead and take your knees to one side. Stretch from the back leg knee through the hand. So I took my knees to the left and I'm stretching the right psoas pathway. From knee to inner thigh, up to the spine, up to the armpit, through the fingers. Fluid breath. Just let the body open. And exhale through center. The series of 5 is a lot of psoas pathway strengthening. So we want to open it up from inner thigh to the vertebrae of the lumbar spine. There's your psoas. From the pelvis, from the inner thigh into the pelvis, there's your iliacus. And then the fascial chains all the way up the body. Come back to center. Come into somatic walking. Fluid breath. Place one hand on your navel, one hand on your heart center. And notice how these twist in relation to each other as you rock the pelvis. Somatic walking. Rest into the somatic walking with three-dimensional breath. And then come to neutral and nod your tailbone again towards earth and again towards sky. And when you nod the tailbone towards sky the third time, pause, using your glutes to tilt the pelvis. Take a deep breath into your low back. Exhale through your straw, lift the pelvic floor into the body. Feel for that internal core, but also feel how you can try to breathe into the back body. Pressing the back body against the floor with your breath. Keep the neck long. Release into neutral. Bring your arms parallel to the body, robot arms. Take out your pillow if you're using one, and float your pelvis up into your bridge. And float it down towards the floor, lightly touching. And inhale the lift, and exhale the lower. And inhale, and exhale. Feel for a three-dimensional breath on the inhale. Fluid breath on the exhale. This three-dimensional breath is fundamental to strengthening all the way around the core. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Neutral in the cervical spine, gaze perpendicular to the floor. Now lift all the way up and pulse the pubic bone skyward, using both sides of your glutes, using both sides of the hamstrings, both legs. Feel for an evenness in the hamstrings, lifting, lifting, lifting. The glutes, lifting, lifting, lifting. And then stretch the knees a little way away from the shoulders and feel even into the low back, lifting, lifting, lifting. Now lift the right side higher than the left, letting the left side go. Pause. Release the left side. Use the right buttock, the right hamstrings, the right low back. Feel for them working. And then swing across. Lift the left buttock. Release the right hip towards the floor. Lifting the left buttock. Relax the right hip. Use the left side. Hamstring, buttock, low back. Swing across to the right. Pause. Right hip lifting. Left hip releasing. Let it go. Let the right side do the work. And then sway across. Lift with the left. Release the right. Put the weight of the right hip on the left hip, the left leg. The left shoulder can activate and ground. And then come back to center. Inhale, lift the pubic bone. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Draw the heels towards your buttocks and feel the buttocks and the hamstrings. Press the heels away. Draw the heels towards. Press the heels away. Draw the heels towards. Lift the pubic bone. Relax the buttocks. Lower the sacrum to the floor. Release the shoulders away from the hips and nod tailbone towards earth, tailbone towards sky gently. Hands come to the front abdomen. Take a few deep breaths into the hands. While you're breathing into the hands, also breathe into the low back. Breathe deep between your ilium bones, between your hip pointers. Breathe deep into the pelvis. Move the body with the breath. Okay. Let's reach for our long TheraBand and bring the long TheraBand up over your left foot for a pendulum. So we're getting ready for single leg circles here, which is a traditional Pilates mat movement. But we are using the TheraBand so that we stretch the leg up out of the hip socket. So you are activating to create a lengthening leg. So really try to press into the TheraBand. Now you may need to bend the knee with tight hamstrings as it comes towards your chest, but as it reaches towards the floor, I'd like to see you press long into the TheraBand. So everybody should have a long leg at some point in the pendulum swing. Okay, so we want to start training that leg, the fascia of that leg, to stretch out. So the knee can bend if it needs to, coming in towards the chest. And don't bring the knee so close to the chest that you flatten your lumbar curve. Now lift the foot towards the sky, lengthen the right leg out on the floor. Take the left leg across to the right and then back across to the pinky toe side. Shoulders are broad and grounding you as the leg pendulums back and forth, side to side. We're not doing circles yet. Keep your shoulders grounding, your neutral curve in your cervical spine, and become aware of your square. Now take the left foot across to the right, down towards the foot of the mat, and as it goes out to the right, out to the left, ground the right side. So as you circle towards the pinky toe side, stretch the opposite side of the body away from the moving leg. Keeping aware of your Pilates square, keeping aware of the back body rectangle, and the right side grounding as the left leg swings towards its pinky toe side. Fluid breath. And the circles can stay small or they can get larger. The beauty of this work is that we are strengthening and opening around the circle of the hip. And then come back to center. Now take it to the pinky toe side first. Stretch the right shoulder away from the pinky toe. Stretch the right hip away from the pinky toe. Use the right side body to help you counterbalance the left moving leg. Waking up your myofascial slings. Still aware of your Pilates square. Now come back to center. Take the TheraBand off. Okay, true Pilates, traditional classic mat. Don't make the circle as big. Take the right foot across and circle. Use your shoulders grounding. Palms are up. Keep the neck long, the jaw relaxed as you circle the leg. One more. When you come to the top, ground the right shoulder as you take the left leg out to the pinky toe side. You still cross over to the right side of the body when the leg comes around. So we're opening the hip. So now we've switched to, if you were at 12 o'clock, you're going towards the pinky toe first. That's the harder circle. And then come to center and hug the knee in towards your chest. Release the left foot to the floor. Bring the right foot into the TheraBand and pendulum. Press into your big toe and pinky toe ball mounds evenly as you pendulum so that you don't practice sickling the foot or collapsing the inner arch. Shoulders are broad, neck is long. You have a nice long spine, an evenly grounded pelvis. You're maintaining your neutral lumbar curve so you may not kick as high. And remember, as the foot comes up, the head of the femur bone moves down towards the foot of the mat. We want to keep space in the hip joint. Now come to the top, lengthen the left leg out on the floor, and take the right foot across to the left and back over to the left. Now, the work is when you take the right foot towards its pinky toe, you stretch the left shoulder and left hip away from the penduluming, if that's a word, leg. Stay strong in your square. Feel into your myofascial slings in the front and back body. So as the right leg moves to the right, the left low ribs counter anchor. So you can think of the left low back ribs kind of anchoring down to hold the moving right leg. Now coming back over to the left side with the right leg, take it down to the foot of the mat, up and around. The circle can be as small or as large as you like, but really think of stretching out with the femur bone at least to the knee. Now, if it feels like you can't maintain a long straight leg because of some tightness in the hamstrings or the fascia on the side of the leg, that's fine, or even deep in the hip. But try to at least lengthen out through the knee so that you're kind of lifting the femur bone a little bit out of the hip socket as you stretch up into the TheraBand. Now come to the top and take the right foot out towards the pinky toe side, really grounding the left side body. Use your myofascial slings. The low left ribs anchor as the right leg moves out and down. So we're training our awareness of how these slings can work to help us stabilize for beautiful, fluid, and graceful movement. This is why I like slowing down, so that you can consciously begin to feel these myofascial slings in action. From right buttock to left shoulder. From left buttock to right buttock. And coming back up, bend the knee. Draw the foot in towards your chest. Take the TheraBand off. And lift the leg back up and circle towards the left with the right leg. Bring your thumbs to your low ribs, your fingers to your hip pointers. Maintain your Pilates Square. And if you need to bend the knee and circle the knee, that's fine. Keep thinking of lifting the knee right out of the pelvis. And take your circles the other way. Try it without the TheraBand if you can. If you need to keep the TheraBand, then do. Fluid breath. Yeah, that's right, George. Try it without it. Yeah, and keep yourself stable as you do. Beautiful. And come back up. Release the right foot to the floor. Nod tailbone towards earth, tailbone towards sky. And just notice changes that may have occurred in your body since we began the mat. And notice changes that may have occurred in your consciousness since we began the mat work. And roll yourself to your side. Okay, today let's do our side work a little differently. Let's bring our block in. This is intermediate mat work. And we will come up onto our shins. Now, if being on your shins doesn't work for you, then you can always come to the chair and do this work here, okay? So that's a possibility too. But if you can be on your shins and you can be on your hand, you're going to take the left leg out and lightly rest your hand onto your block. Now, for those of you with wrist issues, you may be able to balance landing lightly on your fingertips, okay? So you don't have to put as much pressure on the hand. So you can be on a low block, a medium block, or a high block. You choose. And then the other leg comes out. Hand on the hip. I want you to think of taking a deep three-dimensional inhale. Don't think of it, do it. Exhale through your straw, lift your pelvic floor, lift your diaphragm, hug in your transverse abdominis. One more time, deep inhale. Exhale, find your transverse abdominis and float the leg and touch it down and float and touch and float and touch, float and touch. And remember, you could do this here. Like if it's hard on your body to be that low, you could be higher and you could be doing this work high. Okay? Yeah. Fluid breath. Now really lengthen that lifting leg out of your pelvis, like you're creating some space in the hip. You're creating space around the vertebrae. Now float the leg up and draw little circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now draw your elbow towards your knee and lengthen the line. And elbow towards your knee and lengthen the line. And in and out. Find your breath. Maybe it's an inhale and an exhale, or an exhale and an inhale. 2 more. And then pause. Release the foot to the floor and stretch the upper body, the upper side body. Fluid, 3-dimensional breath. And lifting the arm. Exhale to stand back up and draw through center. Use that internal core. We want to train that so that we do it in our daily lives. Take the right leg out. Right hand to the hip. Decide what height you want your block. For me, it's different side to side because of my scoliosis, so I'm having a little higher block on this side. Okay. And we lengthen the spine. So the first thing, it's kind of like Parsvakonasana in yoga. We're finding that nice long spine, that stretch across the shoulder girdle, and floating the leg, and lowering, and floating, and lowering, grounding down to the standing leg. That energy comes back up into the pelvic core. From the pelvic floor, it radiates out through the crown. And one more. And then draw your little circles. Stay broad across the shoulders. Think of the construction X supporting your strength here. Take your circles the other way. Beautiful. And then reach the arm and draw knee towards elbow. And stretch it out. And draw it in. And stretch. And draw. And reach. And draw. And inhale. And exhale. Or exhale and inhale. 2 more. And then release the foot down and rainbow the upper side. Now play with your neck and shoulder girdle. Find space in the neck and shoulder girdle. Create stability, create stretch, and come back to your 3-dimensional breath. Invite the fascial tissue to hydrate. And then float yourselves back up and turn. Okay, let's come into our tabletop. Now remember, those of you with knee issues, you can always do tabletop here, right? You can do this work, all of this work right here. You're still getting the important work done, and you could be on fingertips and lighter on your hands, perhaps. You can also do it here. Okay, you could have your forearms on blocks, and then as you do one arm, you release one block here. Okay, so you don't have to be on your wrists. Okay, so hands and knees. Take the right fingertips forward, left toes back. So if I were on my forearm, I'd be here, right? And then we lift and lower and lift and lower. Fluid breath. I'm going to watch you for a minute because I'm looking for your limbs reaching evenly without you losing your Pilates Square. So those of us who do yoga, we tend to flare the ribs. Can you instead stay stable in the Pilates core and let your limbs move? Yes. Lift from underneath the navel. Support the spine there. And this time when you lift, pause. You have a soft standing arm elbow, a long neck, a stretch from hand to heel, and lift from underneath your core. Support your body. Lift from within the pelvis, supporting the body. Good. And now draw the hand and knee down towards the floor and float. The right arm out like a wing, the left leg out like a doggy at the fire hydrant. Now pausing here, think of where your head is in space. Lengthen into your neutral cervical curve like the floor is behind you. Release fingertips and shin and float up. And releasing down, again feel for your myofascial slings. From the lifting arm to the lifting leg across your back. From the lifting arm to the lifting leg, from low front rib to hip. Now float up and pause. Again, imagine there's a wind lifting your pelvis, lifting your navel, lifting your heart center, lifting your throat. And release. Take the next hand and foot out long. And pause for a minute. Have your shoulders balanced across the body, your hips balanced across the body, and then float the arm, float the leg. And release. As you float the arm, don't drop the navel. Reach the tailbone for the extending leg heel. Keep long and neutral in the spine. So we've learned to stabilize with our bodies on our backs. Now I want you to find that neutral spine in this position. Sacrum to head, like the floor is right behind you. Some of you are dropping your head towards the floor. Yeah, find that neutral spine. Beautiful. And this next time, lift up and pause. Broaden across your shoulders, broaden across your pelvis. Take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through your straw, lengthen the center channel. And bring the shin and the forearm in. And open your wings. And open your doggy at the fire hydrant leg. And imagine there's a vase of flowers on your sacrum. Beautiful, Katie. Really nice work with your sacrum. You're not lifting too high. Fluid breath. Yeah, nice neck and head alignment. Beautiful. Really nice work around the room. And this time as you lift, hold. Think of the wall behind you. Really let your body lengthen and relax back against that wall. Nice shoulder alignment, Kathy. And release. And take an inhaled cow. Now, pause in your cow. Sit bones wide, inner thighs back. Take a deep three-dimensional breath. As you exhale through your straw, draw the pelvic floor into the body. Lift the abdominal core up into the pelvis and towards the lumbar spine. All the way up along the spine towards the heart. Now release the back of the collar, lengthen the neck. And then on your next exhale, take the tailbone around, tilting the pelvis, and lift into your hissing cat, pressing hands away from knees. Take a deep inhale into the back tissue of the body. Slowly lower the sit bones towards the heels and just stretch into that back body. And then hands strong. Each finger pad engaged, drawing in towards the center palm, lift into your downward dog. And in the downward dog, float one leg up behind you. Stretch from hands to heel. Take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through your straw. In this position, can you find the draw of the pelvic floor? Feel for the diaphragm. Hug the transverse abdominis. Take another deep inhale. On this exhale, find the banks of your river. Your inner thighs in relation to each other. And release the lifted leg. Float up the next leg. Deep inhale. Exhale through your straw. Find that lift under the navel, supporting your spine. Ooh, beautiful along the spine, Karen. Fluid breath. You too, Katie. Fluid breath. Nice work, Vicky. And exhale, release. Walk your feet towards your hands. And let your bellies rest on your femur bones. Really try to rest them. So your knees are bent as much as they need to be to actually get your belly right on your legs. I want your belly on your legs. Okay, now this is a true hamstring opener. If you can bend enough, you can put your hands on blocks if you need to. Keeping the belly on the legs, begin to lift the sit bones. Let the upper body waterfall over the lower body. See if you can release the spine into traction. Fluid breath. Beautiful, everyone. Let go of the head and neck. Invite space in the cervical vertebrae. Let the head traction away from the pelvis, even if you're up high. Let the head traction away from the pelvis. Invite space between the thoracic vertebrae of the ribcage. Finally, invite the breath again deep into the belly, even between the hip bones. And exhaling, release and traction the lumbar spine. Now imagine again that you're hugging the block between your knees and activate your inner thighs. Bring your hands to the outer leg and just massage the outer leg from hip to ankle, reminding yourself these are the banks of my river. And then bending your knees. Float yourself up, Utkatasana, hands at the hips, hands at the heart. Again, hugging in the banks of the river, feeling inner thigh to inner thigh. Root down from the hips into the ground and lengthen your spine out of the pelvis. And then inhale, release the arms and let them swing. And swing yourself straight up towards the sky. Reach skyward. And release your arms, lengthening your spine as if you're pushing the hands down. Just lengthen the spine up. And pause with your breath. Okay. Let's lift up our hand weights. You don't have to use hand weights if you don't want to. They're here for proprioception and awareness. Come into your Pilates V to the right side of your mat. Broaden across your collar and open your palms slightly forward for a moment. And just fall towards the left and hinge. But as I do that, I'm not hitching at the hip. I'm staying long in the trajectory of my spine. So we hinge, and then pressing from the foot, we float back. And we hinge and float. Stay strong across the back shoulders. Stay strong across the front collarbones. And even here, as you're stepping towards a diagonal, can you stay strong in your Pilates Square awareness? In your tailbone, reaching for the back heels. Strong across your back body. You can stay here or lift your thumbs to your shoulders. Still stay strong in the shoulders. We're not stretching the arms yet. We're feeling across the back shoulders and how that's supported by a rooting tail and a strong Pilates square. And then if you'd like to, stretch the arms. It's like you're putting a box up on a shelf. We reach and float back. Reach and float back. Feel how your whole body is involved in the motion and how you can do this motion with awareness of a stable square, stabilized by the back heel. We reach and float back. Reach and float back. And switch sides. Start with the hands down, shoulders broad, and hinge, and float back. Let your head stay in alignment with your spine as you hinge across to the right and float back. Ground the outer heel of the back foot And let that one point be what holds you, that you get to hinge from, and feel how easy that can be. You can stay here or bring your thumbs to your shoulders. Still feel the shoulder blades strong on your back. Feel how those shoulder blades can be connected to the back leg buttock and the back leg heel. And then if you'd like to, reach the arms and come back. And reach and come back. Keep your head in line so you're not looking up at that high shelf. Keep your head in line with the spine for this exercise. The back outer heel is grounding you. That's what's stabilizing you, that one little point. And then you have a strong Pilates Square, strong banks to your river, a strong identity with your center channel, and that makes it fluid and easy. And float back, and release your arms to your sides and float them out into a T. And rest into the whole circumference of your heels, feet open in a Pilates V. Keeping the right arm where it is. Let the left arm swing open. Feel into a strong square. Breathe through dimensionally into the torso and swing the right arm forward, left arm out. And then come back out with the right arm open across the top of the shoulders, lengthen the neck. Three-dimensional breath. Place your tongue right at the back of your hard palate. And now imagine that that bony point is a little nest on top where the pituitary sits. It's pretty cool. I just learned how to identify that exactly yesterday. Or release your hands by your hips. Place your tongue on the center roof of your mouth. And say good morning to your pituitary gland right above your tongue. And bicep curl your arms. And release. And bicep curl. Keep the heart lifted. Stay aware of your Pilates Square. And lift up into your cactus. And reach the arms. Pilates Square is there. We're not over flaring the ribs. Bring the arms open. Keep your tailbone grounding. Reach. And release. Feel the banks of your river, the strength of your inner thigh channel. And as you exhale, blow out through the straw, reach the arms long, lengthen the spine. Inhale, three-dimensionally. Exhale, lift the pelvic floor, lift the breathing diaphragm. Inhale, three-dimensionally, one more. Exhale, feel the strength of the hug of your transverse abdominis. Inhale, feel three-dimensionally. And release your hand. And let's inhale and draw into the sensations you noticed today and the awareness you built. Let's inhale into our abilities to grow throughout our lifetimes. And let's inhale into a wonderful Wednesday and rest of the week for all of you. Nice work.
Tracy, I love doing the basics. It was wonderful.
Oh, good.
Just loved it. I would love a copy of this.